Hi, my name's Carol Savage from mydish.co.uk.
Carol, great to see you today. Can you just tell us a little bit about what Mydish does?
We are a recipe website where people come and store and share their recipes. It's all about homemade recipes, bringing your signature dish or your family favourites and sharing it online and swapping it.
Now, how's the business been financed from the start?
I started with seed money from friends and family. I raised about £50,000 in order to deliver a proof of concept. So putting the website together, we also needed the money to provide the software for what we wanted to do to be able to draw people in was create the tools for people to create their own recipe books and recipe calendars. So like the iTunes for recipes, so you can put up all your family recipes, or if you're a vegetarian, all your vegetarian recipes. So we needed to create proprietary software and set up the website, and we raised £50,000 to do that. Once we had done that, I also needed, in terms of raising finance to go out to market, I wanted to be able to provide a sales proof of sales. So I went through to corporates to try and sell the license of the Mydish platform so they could use it to help as an employee engagement tool for their staff. So, right. You know, really, what better way to understand the people you work with than through what they eat? So we sold it through to BT on a license basis for them to send out and use for their staff.
So your seed capital, you managed to put together
for the seed capital. I got the website up, the software for the books, and we had one sale, which was to BT to sell the platform. So we created it so that we could sell a platform.
And at that point, how did you come to the decision that this is something which is now worth really taking forward, building further?
I actually knew that right at the beginning. I knew that the seed money was a start to be able to get further financing. I knew that, you know, if you're going to build a business, you're not going to build it on £50,000, and we needed to get the volume. The issue was whether or not we could get some more revenue in, or whether we get the people in, and, you know, obviously without the revenue you don't get the people. So I went to, I looked at a number of different ways of trying to drive the money. I wanted to gain the money. I wanted to get equity finance. And I went to the Enterprise 100, which is London Business School group of people who meet 4 times a year. Basically, it's like Dragon's Den.
And how did you find them as against other angel groups?
I'm an alumni of London Business School, so I knew about it. But also my last business, I got finance through the Enterprise 100 group, which is 100 angels who come together who look at innovative ideas. And I'd gone back to my mentor and tutor, who's just fabulous with me, John Bates, who's one of the adjunct professors of entrepreneurship, and he kept on saying, "Go away, Carol, you know, go away, you know, think of another business." And when I brought him the business plan of Mydish, he said, "I like it, you know, and I'll help you put it forward." So he put me up in front of, and it is like standing up there and kind of, you'd have to do a 10-minute presentation, and then people ask you questions and, you know, often try and trip you up with questions, and just in the same way as they do it on telly.
Yeah.
So, and they cut you off on the clock, you know, so if you're just in the middle of a sentence, they say, "That's it, 5 seconds to go and you're finished."
So what won them over? Because obviously you were successful.
I think the banana bread that I baked for them won me over. So I think there's always, you know, one bit of advice is you've got to make yourself stand out a little bit. And I think the fact that you've got these people who are coming along and hearing 8 different presentations, and I'm there serving my banana bread, did help. I mean, even afterwards when I was following it up, it's like, "Oh, you're the girl with the banana bread." So it was just a little bit memorable.
What were the toughest questions you got to have, you know, you had to answer?
Oh, I can't remember all the questions. I just remember people sort of challenging your business model. So, for instance, you know, how do you know you're going to get to 100,000? Well, my problem with doing these things is I'm very straight and very honest about these things, and I didn't know whether I was going to get to 100,000 or a million or 5,000. You don't know. But what you have to be able to say is, look, here are a range of possibilities. It could go like this, or it could go like this. You know, this is what we're aiming for. And you know, you can only put forward what your gut instinct is.
Yeah, so I believe you had about 5 or 6 angel investors who contributed.
What happens at the end of these things is that they kind of anonymously fill in feedback forms, and the people who are interested, I then had to do another presentation. So I set up a date for, you know, it was originally 100 people, and then we got down to about 10. And I set up a presentation to go into detail so that they could really drill down into the model, because that was only a 15-minute kind of, are you interested in the concept? And we spent an hour going through it and saying, look, these are the different revenue streams. I think the interesting thing about our model is that it had a lot of different possibilities for revenue streams by selling the license to corporates, by selling books and calendars, advertising, sponsorship, and other food and wine kind of products. But nobody knew which one was going to work. So you can kind of put your feelers out. But the nice thing is that there are opportunities to test a number of different things.
So presumably that dropped their sort of risk view of, you had some adaptability.
Well, the only one we proved was the licence from the corporates. And as it so happens, a year later, that's the least effective one because of the economic downturn. A lot of corporates have not been spending a lot of money, so we haven't been pushing that way.
Now, once you've got some of these investors on board, what's the working relationship been like?
I've done this before in my last company, and I think it can be really time-consuming and really difficult. And I think, I took a lot of learnings from my last company to try and make it easy, because people who invest, they want to get involved. And what I find is you've got 10 different people with 10 different advice, 10 different views on things, all well-meaning, but, they're pulling you and you can end up just being pulled from pillar to post.
How do you cope with that?
Well, I think there's two ways of coping with it. One, you have an investor director who then can field the comments from everybody else, so I don't have to spend my time dealing with it. It's nice every so often to be able to talk to people and get their input, but you have to be able to take their input with everybody else's and make the decision yourself, because they're paying me to run the business, not them. So, that is the hardest thing, of trying to kind of balance off. That's a very nice idea, but actually I'm not going to do it now.
Right, I understand. Now, moving forward a little bit, as with many businesses, you've then sought some second round funding.
Yes.
How's that process run, and how is it different to the sort of
Well, I'm actually pretty
phase?
proud of what we've done, because we raised the first round in December 2007. And we had to prove quite a lot of tough things. And as I said before, one of the things that we did target was trying to get corporate licenses, which we failed in because of the market that we're in now. It's just very difficult to get people to buy things that are not absolutely core to their business. But we did manage to get a lot of activity with consumers on the site. We've built up membership, we've built up activities. And although all the models that people give you kind of show S-curves going like this, I think they're more like that, and hopefully we will get up to the kind of, the hockey stick approach, but it just takes a long time to get going, and we're able, in this sort of very tight economy, to be able to prove a lot of interest in the site. So I feel very proud that we were able to go back to our original investors and get more money rather than going to new people.
Yeah. And just a final question, which comes up a lot. I mean, how have you handled valuation issues, particularly that second round?
The second round isn't as hard as the first round, because the second round really was just a continuation, because you can't, unless you have significantly increased your valuation, it really was just a follow-on round. The first round of funding is much more of a kind of a debate, and I think the way that you look at it is how much are you prepared to give away in terms of the control and your share of the business, as opposed to how much it's worth. So I raised over £500,000, and I didn't want to give away, 75% for £500,000, but I was happy to give away a third of it for £500,000, and that's where the valuation came through. So it really is about, knowing that I needed the money to build it and how much of it you're prepared to give away.
My final question is, have you already discussed ultimate sort of exit strategies, etc.? Has that been a key driver for the investors?
Yes, but I think it is very much tainted with what's going on with the economy at the moment. I mean, nobody wants to, it's just like selling your house. People are putting it on hold. Nobody really wants to sell it at low valuation. So for us, actually, this economic time is quite good to build a business, because you're not really thinking about exiting at the moment.
Carol, final question. Right. Is there any tips you'd give for people starting off taking the route which you've taken?
Well, I think that if you're going to present to people, you need to be able to be memorable. So really, make yourself stand out for what it is and have something of a clear proposition of what you're trying to do. And I think in terms of raising the finance, it's really about proving what you're going to do first, so that when you're going out looking for money, you can actually show some degree of success before you raise the money.
Carol, thanks very much for that advice.